How the hell is Money on the Roof only a couple of weeks away? I mean, it seems like yesterday we were all debating WrestleMania 36 and what they're going to do, what's going to happen. And now we have another pay-per-view. Everything in the world can stop, but wrestling just keeps rocking on like a train. But that means the show called Ups and Downs also continues rocking on like a train, and I am the damn conductor, and the finger of power is the engine. I don't even know what that means, but my name is Simon Miller, and we are about to up those downs for Monday Night Raw. Oodalally. It was the VIP lounge with MVP starting off this week's RAW because WWE just loves initials more than 1, 2, 3. And he just invited out Aleister Black, he invited out Apollo Cruz, and he invited out Rey Mysterio because they are all going to be in the Money on the Roof match. And usually on a talk show, you let people talk, but here, literally nobody talked other than MVP. I have no idea why this needed to be a VIP lounge, but that's just what we do. And just as Rey Mysterio was going to talk, he was then also interrupted by Zelina Vega and her crony of fools, as I'm going to call them, and their message was nice and simple. We think we should be on Money on the Roof, so why don't you just give us your spot? I mean, that is not how it works at all, but you gotta shoot your shot. Rey was then finally able to speak and was like, these sound like fighting words, and can you believe it? Then all of these 6 guys did indeed have a fight. And I would say the highlight here was MVP putting over Apollo Crews. He was like, man, I think you're gonna win the whole thing. And by the end of the night, this had all changed. But during this moment, I was a pretty happy camper. And we got this match right away when all was said and done. And that worked very nicely because everybody involved has got better at no crowd, empty arena matches as the weeks have gone on. And because Zelina Vega was at ringside just going, rah, rah, it just gave it the atmosphere that it needed. Also, in case you're interested, Samoa Joe was on commentary. And as we know, and as we relearned, if you put Samoa Joe on commentary, life is just better all around. It was decent too, as mentioned, but it was the finish where I was doubly focused on. Why? Because Apollo Crews got the pin on Andrade, who is the US champion, after a powerbomb. So you're like, oh my gosh, maybe this is going to start a feud, as long as WWE doesn't forget. But even the powers that be must have been, oh my gosh, we may forget this. So as it turned out, we were going to get that match later. But hold your horses, whatever that means. Hold your horses, because when we get there, we got to talk about our stuff. So it was a solid start to Raw. I mean, it was a little bit dry, like eating toast with no butter. But I suppose if you do that, it's healthier. Give it up. For some reason, we were also counting down Triple H's 10 best moments throughout the evening, I suppose to tie into all his 25th anniversary celebration. So I'll give you a couple now, but you can just find the list online, should you so wish. Number 10 was when he reformed D-Generation X after Shawn Michaels had left. And number 9 was when he beat Sting at WrestleMania. Like, are you kidding me, WWE? Just let it go. This is like a groom that stands up at his wedding and he goes, I just want to thank everyone here today. Love to my bride-to-be. And don't forget, it was I that broke up with every single girlfriend I had before this because I am an alpha male. We get it. You've done very well and now you've landed, I suppose, your hot wife. Nobody cares. There was trouble in paradise too, it would seem, because we then cut away to Andrade and Zelina Vega, who were having an argument backstage. And Andrade just wanted to know why they had lost the match. And Zelina was like, you know why? It was because of Austin Theory and Angel Garza. So we're already teasing breaking up this thing, and I understand what they're really good. Keep them together forever. Apollo was then here though, and look, I tell you this, he was grinning and showing more swagger than we have seen in ages, and it filled me with glee. It filled me with literal glee, whatever that means. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the best the main roster has ever treated Apollo Crews, because finally you can go, oh look, he's got confidence, he believes in himself. I think he's gonna go out there and whoop everybody's ass. He was even over the moon when Andrade returned to confront him, because he slapped him right in the face and said, look man, I've already fought once, but if you want to fight twice, I will take you on for that US Championship. And everybody agreed. Now I will point out, I am sick of every single championship match, I've said this time and time again, but I'll say it again, being set up because one person goes, do you want to fight for that belt? And the other person goes, oh yes please, that sounds divine. But it's different with Apollo Crews because he needed something and he almost had it, before it was stolen away. WWE then continued the slapping, although this time it was the slapping of our own faces. So I'll do it for you, WWE. Look, I'll do it for you. I slap myself around, and that really hurts, and now my cheeks are red. Point is down. You see, earlier in the day on social media, they had announced that it was going to be Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler versus Asuka. And I can understand that's probably a match you want to save for a pay-per-view and give it some build, but look, we ain't got any fans right now, so I was like, you know what, just give me whatever I can get. Anyway, I bought in, and what did I get out the other side? Absolutely nothing. Because Asuka came out and she was shouting in Japanese at Nia Jax, which is fair because she beat up her friend Kairi Sane for 2 weeks running, and by the time these three ladies were in the ring, all they did was have a brawl. Nia Jax beat up Asuka and Shayna Baszler, then picked up a ladder and dropped it like she was a unit in an RTS game and she had timed out, and that was it. I don't know if the match started, I don't know if the match ended, I have no idea what happened. It just made me say out loud, because I'm a weird person, look WWE, don't book matches if you can't figure out who's gonna win. It's Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt all over again. But it just made me upset, that's why it got a down. That's kind of the same with Bobby Lashley, because I can't figure out what his story arc is meant to be. Like last week he was flipping tires, and this week he was in a squash match against Denzel Washington, Denzel DeJournay, however you pronounce it, and Bobby Lashley didn't even attempt to flip this guy. I thought that was the whole point. He was practicing his flips so he could flip the roster, and here, there was no flipping. He's getting a down. It was just a squash match though, and the real focus once again was what happened before the contest, because Lana and Bobby Lashley were backstage, and Bob went, look Lana, I don't want you at ringside this evening because you are a distraction. The former Russian was very upset by this, as you can imagine. She was like, why? What's wrong with me? And then Bob, thinking on his feet, went, well, you're just so beautiful. Sometimes I can't concentrate on my opponent. So we're back to the breakup angle, I think, but who knows? Maybe next week he's like doing battle ropes as Lana goes, go Bobby, go with the battle ropes. But Bob, you had such a better excuse here that would have worked, like I say, far better. You should have just said, Lana, we are not practicing social distancing right now. I think you should, get 2 feet away from me or whatever the hell it is, and therefore don't come to the ring as well. I assume when he was done here, he went back to flipping tires. That was so odd. I tell you what though, I am enjoying Liv Morgan versus Ruby Riott matches. Not only are they better than I would have ever expected, WWE isn't even doing 50-50 booking here, because Liv Morgan won again and kicked out of the Riott kick, which the commentator sold like it was the greatest sell you've ever seen in your entire life, and then hit her new finish, which is that flatliner thing, to get the 1-2-3. Now, the only problem is that we also learned said finisher is called Oblivion, because Oblivion, and that made me want to rip my eyeballs out, but I like Liv Morgan, I like Ruby Riott, hope she gets a little something after this too, is getting it up. Morgan also got some promo time afterwards, and even though it was absolute gibberish, this is good, because the more time we give her, the better she will get. But she did look at us and say, look, I don't really know who I am, but I think that's true for a lot of people my age, but I'm going to dedicate all my time to figuring out who I am, and that is fair, because in the world of kayfabe, she was a lesbian about 2 months ago, and then all of a sudden she wasn't a lesbian. That's quite the journey to go on. Then Nia Jax continued this strange chat when she was chatting to Charlie Caruso, because she was going like, who's gonna stop me? Shayna Baszler. Who's gonna stop me? Asuka. Who's gonna help me? And I was like, answer your own stupid question, Nia Jax, and then I regretted it, because she did, and she shouted, nothing! At the top of her lungs, and it made the audio go all out of whack, and it hurt my ears. Don't do this. Don't shout. Audio and pleasant audio on my eardrums is really important. I was so close to getting a controller and turning it off because I had that weird angry reaction thing you get when someone gets too far in your head. So Nia Jax, you getting it down, stop shouting. Fortunately, we then also learned that the Viking Raiders have split personality disorder. Damn. Because whereas last week they were in a car just having a good time, this week they were back to being Vikings, doing Viking things in a dark room, and they talked about the Street Profits, and the only reason they are the tag team champions is because the Viking Raiders are never around to kick their ass, but now they are around, so they are gonna kick their ass. They finished it by saying, we want the smoke, which makes no sense coming from Vikings, and I know I'm in the minority, I think I preferred them driving around in the car. At least that was so bad that it was kinda good. This was just every big man promo you'd ever seen in WWE, and as I always say, it doesn't make any sense, because if they are Vikings, they are going to go to their nearby town and pillage and kill everybody, including kids. Look it up, people. That is what they did. Amazingly, Jinder Mahal then returned to Raw, and I was really pleased to see him. Absence does make the heart grow fonder. There was a little graphic beforehand, and I went, oh, but Jinder's back. and you couldn't have had a bigger smile than me. He was taking on the world's greatest jobber, Tozawa, and remember that is not an insult, it's a compliment. But unfortunately here he'd been told, I'm sorry Tozawa, usually you get a little something, but this week Jinder's just gonna ruin you. That's what he did. He hit the class, he got the 1, 2, 3. He looked pretty good if I'm honest, giving it up. It also made me realise that I think WWE may have brought him back so that he can feud with Drew McIntyre once Drew is done with Seth Rollins. And again, I don't mind. I don't know what's happening in my brain, but this is just how I feel. Because one, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal are good friends, and that helps when you're trying to be professional wrestlers and work a feud together. And two, Drew McIntyre can just win that easily, and nobody's going to be annoyed. You also have all the history with 3MB, and I am clearly losing the plot, because about here, a quarter of my gut is actually excited about Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship. Somebody punch me in the face. I also think we're going all in with this Angel Garza, Charlie Caruso thingamabob relationship love angle, because you know what's been going on for the last few weeks, and here he just gave her a rose and pretty much said, do you want to go on a date with me? And Charlie Caruso, well, she definitely does. She looked like someone had just said, Charlie, here's a voucher for the world's best ice cream. It could go either way, of course. You're either going to get Otis and Mandy Rose stuff, which is excellent, or Bobby Lashley, Lana, and Rusev. We all know how that went. It was then time for Andrade versus Apollo Crews for the US Championship, and at the time I was surprised. As I said, I thought WWE would hold this off, but hey look, Apollo said he wanted to fight twice in one night, and he got his wish. Let's talk about it. Now in terms of the match, I thought it was really good. I mean, it may have gone a tad too long, because again, we don't have fans, and the start was a little bit slow, but when they found their momentum and when they found their feet, this was a superb back and forth contest, which once again made me go, Andrade, he's the bee's knees, and Apollo Crews, man, he's got the skills. There was also a couple of near falls that actually made me bite and think we were going to get a title change, so all of that is getting an up. But the finish, my word, the finish, what are we doing? Because after Apollo Crews had teased that he injured his knee, when he then came off the ropes later on and definitely did hurt his knee, the referee decided he had seen enough and he just stopped the match. I have seen Shawn Michaels come off the side of a Hell in a Cell. I have seen Mankind be thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell and go through a table. I have seen Stone Cold Steve Austin break his neck in the ring. And the key to all of these three men is that they finished the match. But here, Apollo Crews had a knee injury and it was too much for the official to bear. It's just so stupid, and it made Apollo Crews look like a massive geek, and that's not his fault. But when you are put in this kind of situation, I go, why didn't he try and fight on? I've watched wrestling for 30 years and everybody else tried to fight on, but not this dude. Down. It got worse too, because afterwards when he was doing an interview, he was all crying and upset. Now look, if this was real and it was a real life sport, that's exactly the way you should act, because of feelings. But again, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena, every time these guys got beat, they were booked to be absolute badasses like, well, I don't care, I've been knocked down, I'm gonna drag myself back up, and I'm gonna win 72 championships, whereas Apollo Crews was bubbling away. So basically, when you set a precedence and then you break that precedence, it just makes the person who is involved in this look like a bit of an idiot, and that's what we did here. It took away all his swagger that he had earlier, and I just really hope there's more story here. I really hope there's some kind of redemption angle, because I don't think this was a very good look for Apollo Crews. I also want to shout out the Street Profits here, in particular Montez Ford, because they did their rebuttal promo to the Viking Raiders, but they toned everything down this week, especially Montez, and when he was accepting the challenge, yeah, he sounded like he meant it. I believed every word. You should do more of this, dudes. I thought it was pretty damn good. Had a clip from the Becky Lynch 24 documentary, which is on the WWE Network, and it's a damn good watch, by the way. And then Cedric Alexander and Ricochet were back in tag team action. They were taking on Chase Parker and Matt Martel, and while it wasn't really a squash, because there was a little bit of back and forth, ultimately Ricochet and Cedric Alexander got the quick win after they did like a foot stomp recall move. It looked really good. Just like this tag team up. I also think we're actually going to start a proper feud between these guys and Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink. I know that's really strange, especially because those two only popped up a week or two ago and got beaten by Cedric and Rick. But here, MVP was on the screen. He was like, look, I found a couple of guys to manage. It's these two, and they want a rematch next week so they can prove they're about to go right to the top. So that's very interesting. I mean, I would have taken MVP and put him with Cedric Alexander and Ricochet, but what do I know? I'm just a bored asshole. But I'm intrigued here, and I think MVP will be a very good manager. In case you're interested too, the number one Triple H moment was when he returned from his quad injury in 2002, and that's 100% correct. And then we were getting our main event segment, which was Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins in a little bit of a contract signing. Now, look, WWE does do this way too much. Like a few weeks ago, Goldberg was doing it, Roman Reigns was doing it, Undertaker was doing it, and AJ Styles was doing it. However, this was fire. For starters, I don't know if Rollins is about to change his gimmick up, but he looked like an absolute badass here. He's wearing one glove as if he was about to do some moonwalking, but he also had this suit on, so that if you had told me, oh, Seth Rollins is about to perform a hit on someone, I would have gone, yeah, he looks like he is. It was proper, like, villain attire. Better still is how WWE is allowing Drew McIntyre to act like a smart, in control, and strong babyface, and we haven't seen that in ages. Because after Seth had gone on and on about how he needs to win the belt back because he's a leader, McIntyre just took the microphone and said, you know what, Seth? You are full of shit. He then proceeded to cut a very direct and very serious promo, but I tell you the kind of feeling it left you with. It was the feeling of like, oh man, I should believe in Drew because he believes in himself. Please do go and beat the hell out of your opponent. And that's what it should be. He promised to kill them when they fight at the Money on the Roof pay-per-view, and that's literally what he said. He said he's going to go after Seth Rollins' throat. So if you don't want to see a man's larynx get ripped out, I would avoid that event if I were you. And even the fallout to this was Drew McIntyre standing tall, because he got fed up with Seth Rollins talking eventually, grabbed his head and slammed it into the table, which meant that from nowhere came Don't Call Him Buddy Murphy. So you think, oh, okay, Seth Rollins and Don't Call Him Buddy Murphy are going to beat down Drew. But no, after they had put a few licks in, McIntyre rose up, he Claymore kicked Murphy so hard his head came off, and then Rollins tried to run away. I do not get why WWE has taken so long to realize this is how you should book the guys that are top of the card. But again, he looks strong, he looks smart, and I'm rearing for him. That's not what I meant, I'm cheering for him. What does rearing mean? I'm cheering for him, and I want him to be victorious. I don't care if he feels overpowered. He should feel overpowered. He's a 6'6" Scottish guy that wants to kill people. So actually, when all was said and done, I thought this was a pretty decent Raw, and it got me far more interested in Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, which I was kind of a little bit weak on just because Seth Rollins had lost at WrestleMania. But this new guise he was in, and Drew McIntyre being, like Super Drew, it all worked out well. Just worried about Apollo Crews. Please, take care of Apollo Crews. He's got the talent, and we can do something well with him. But did I enjoy myself over the 3 hours? Yes, I did. And therefore, it's getting an up. But man, do I miss fans. It's getting harder each and every week. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling. It's free. Head on over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself more articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling, including, if you are watching this, on the Tuesday, the 28th of April, tonight, 8 p.m. BST Live, I will be reacting to my debut in wrestling, which was also 2 years ago today. And I tell you, there are some doozies to chat about. My name is Simon Miller, also known as the King of Ups and Downs. Don't know what that means, but I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you soon.